Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge.
Relief Windows. Experience, quality, and service. ReliefWindows.com.
1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hanny time. Hanny time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Hannegriff.
And we welcome you into Hanny Time 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. I'm Charles Hannegriff. Mario Jerez back from vacation along with Taylor Sharp. I guess I can come clean with the real story now. See, Mario had told everybody he was going on vacation. It's not actually what happened. Mario put himself in the audio producer transfer portal. Had a deal all worked out on the West Coast. I mean, he was going to UCLA. It was great. Had a nice NIL deal in place. Everything was going to happen. You know, we were going to give him a nice send-off, and it fell through. And so what he did was he took his name out of the transfer portal. He's back here. We're glad to have you, Mario. I hope you had a nice trip to California. So sorry that NIL deal fell through.
Thanks, Hanny. NIL is a crazy thing.
You're not the only one. You know, or maybe as you pointed out right before we started the show, maybe it's NIL, maybe it's dancing platforms. Maybe dancing platforms are bad luck.
Yeah, maybe it looks that way.
You know, the dancing platform, or were they 0 for 2 on the dancing platform? So maybe we abolish that, because I can't think of any recruit that would say, you know, I would have went there, but he wouldn't dance with me. Recruiting's a strange thing. Recruiting's always been a strange thing. It's always been about ways to work the system the best that you can, whether you're a player or coach or whatever. I can vividly remember the dead periods where, this is before cell phones, before everybody had a cell phone, that recruits would be hidden. And I remember a coach saying, look, we're going to try to contact this kid before signing day. You know, we got 3 days left, but we can't have an in-home visit. So we're going to try to find him. So you can't call him. He said, well, they brought him to the duck camp. There's no phone out there. So they're just stashing him for 3 days. Isn't he going to school? No, he's not going to school. He's at the duck camp where there's no phone. We don't know where the duck camp is. Now it's just, it's more out in the open. And, of course, we're referring to, well, it's two stories really here. One of them is Walker Howard, who has now committed to join Ole Miss. I can remember vividly when the transfer rules were first being discussed, being amended. This is a long time ago. And the idea that there would be a transfer rule that did not include some kind of disincentive, that there would not be a year to sit out or some kind of academic restrictions or just something. Everybody said the same thing at the time. Well, if you do that, it'll be the Wild Wild West. That prediction was correct, because now what we have is the Wild Wild West. It doesn't even faze me anymore as much, because it is the current landscape, and you can adapt to it, or you can, kick and scream and stomp your feet, and it's still going to be the same way. Walker Howard is going to Ole Miss, and that's not where any LSU fan would prefer to see him. If he had gone to TCU or somewhere out of the conference where you weren't going to probably have to play him again, it would have probably been, we wish you the best and, hope things work out for you. Now that you're in the division, not so much. If you're a fan of LSU, you're no longer rooting for Walker Howard. You're now rooting against Walker Howard. You're not rooting against him because he's from Louisiana or because he left LSU. You might be because he left LSU. I don't want to speak for everybody else, but you're rooting against him because he now plays for the opposition. You root against everybody that plays for Auburn. When TJ Finley went to Auburn, you rooted against him. When Eli Ricks went to Alabama, you rooted against him. And as Shea Dixon pointed out this morning, LSU has had now, since the advent of the transfer portal, at least one player go to everybody in the division. Look, man, we've come a long way in a very short period of time. It was not that long ago that coaches could restrict where players could transfer to, even after sitting out a year. The most ridiculous of these was Bo Ryan, not the LSU football coach at Parrish, but the Wisconsin basketball coach, who prohibited his players from transferring to anybody on their schedule for the rest of their eligibility and anybody that they might play in a tournament. Like one of these preseason holiday tournaments, which the schedule hadn't even been decided yet. Well, we might play them, so you can't transfer there either, which was, okay, now you're just being a jerk about it, okay? You're not going to let me transfer to UNC Charlotte because you might see them in the Holiday Classic on a Thursday in November? No. Come on, now you're being stupid. But that's what the rule was. You could prohibit that. Now there's no prohibition, and you can transfer in the conference, you can transfer in the division, and it's become commonplace. Walker Howard was it was in a bad timing situation for him as far as the quarterbacks went. There was a transfer that came in that did very well in Jaden Daniels. There was another player that stayed ahead of him on the depth chart, and he feels like there's a faster path to playing time for him at Ole Miss. Bummer for LSU, but frankly, they've got two quarterbacks that are ahead of him on the depth chart right now, so what are they supposed to do? We did that story a week ago. I am curious just to see what Walker Howard does at Ole Miss. At first glance, this is a pretty good fit. Lane Kiffin does a lot of creative things with quarterbacks, and whether it be Jalen Hurts when he was at Alabama or Chris Robson, who was at Florida Atlantic, or Matt Corral at Ole Miss, or even Jackson Dart, who had a reasonable year this year, faded late as the team did, but put up some decent numbers. The one thing I would say is I do wonder how much they will ask him to run, because in the 3 years that Lane Kiffin has been at Ole Miss, the run has been a very big part of what the quarterbacks are asked to do. Went back and looked up Matt Corral's numbers the 2 years he was a quarterback, 20 and 21. In 2020, he ran for 506 yards on 112 carries. You're looking at, and that was in 10 games because that was a COVID year. And then last year, his last year in 2021, he ran 152 times in 13 games. So you're talking about double-digit carries for the quarterbacks there. And then Jackson Dart this past year ran it 128 times, so right at double digits, and he ran for 614 yards. Dart ran for 614 yards last year. Corral ran for 614 yards in 2021. So obviously the Ole Miss quarterback's over-under for next year is 614 yards. That's where you got to hit. I don't know if Walker Howard ever intended to be a quarterback that ran that much in college. We'll see. Ole Miss's issue now, but he's not a bad athlete. He's just not a quarterback that you ever considered would run that much. He's a little bit smaller than Corral was. He's a little bit smaller than Dart. And, he runs well enough. I've seen him, but is that where you want to put him? Don't know. Again, the quarterbacks for him, for Kiffin at Florida Atlantic had mixed results. Jeff Driscoll, when he was a quarterback there, ran 84 times. Chris Robson ran for negative yards his last year there, which means basically they took out the sacks and it was some scrambles. It wasn't a whole lot of design runs. He wasn't a running quarterback. We'll see what Kiffin does and if Walker Howard beats Jackson Dart out, or if Jackson Dart, hey, who knows? He could always decide to leave too. They had a quarterback, Luke Altmaier. He ended up going to Illinois, so they had a spot on the depth chart. If this kind of stuff bothers you, okay, if the transfers bother you, all I can tell you is there's been all kinds of developments in college football that you may or may not like, but it ain't ever going back to, you can sit there and pine for the old days when, the kid went to the old State U and stayed there for 5 years and, pledged everlasting allegiance to the school. It didn't matter if it was a backup or a starter or a star or a bench warmer. They were from this state, so they went to this school, and that was it. Or maybe, they were a legacy. It doesn't work that way anymore. You're going to see major turnover every single year. This 5 years ago, a quarterback transferring in the division would have bothered the hell out of me. Not just because he's going to play against you, bad as that is, if he's good, and we don't know how good he's going to be. He's very talented. But because you didn't want to upset your own supply chain of players. Well, if that guy goes, then I got to go find somebody. That used to be a problem. You had to talk somebody into sitting out a year and then coming in and maybe, having to sit another year when they got here. Well, that was a big problem. Now, let's go find another quarterback. I'm serious. Go find another quarterback. If after this season, well, Jaden Daniels will be out of eligibility. But if after this season, okay, just hypothetically, every quarterback on LSU's roster transferred, you know what I get up here and say? Okay, got to go find 3 more. Go find one. Texas Tech, Central Michigan, East Tennessee, Wake Forest. That's what everybody else does. You go ahead and finding and developing a quarterback that comes up through your system and eventually becomes a starter is not the norm anymore. Used to be the overwhelming norm. It's not the norm. Actually hasn't been the norm at LSU for a long time. When's the last quarterback that they, this has been discussed before. When's the last quarterback that they developed that came up through the system and started here? Zach Mettenberger didn't. Joe Burrow certainly didn't. Danny Etling didn't. Jaden Daniels didn't. The quarterbacks they brought up through the system largely petered out. The last one you brought up through the system that played a lot, you got to go back and had a lot of success. You got to go back to Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson. At any rate, that story is interesting, but it pales in comparison to the Jaden Rashada story at Florida. This one's fascinating. Jaden Rashada is quarterback from California. He had committed to Florida and signed a national letter of intent, which I think is going to be interesting because that's supposed to be binding. But if you missed this story, Jaden Rashada did not enroll this week because a NIL deal, 4 years, $13 million with the Gator Collective fell through. So Jaden Rashada stayed home and now wants out of his national letter of intent. I don't even know where to start here. First of all, $13 million for a high school quarterback. Wow. Okay. Somebody else's money. OPM, other people's money, whatever. You want to spend $13 million on a high school quarterback? Knock yourself out. May happen here. May already be happening here. I don't know what these guys' NIL deals are. $13 million sounds like a lot to me, but okay. So, 4-year deal. You really think he's going to stay 4 years? He might stay 3 if you're really lucky. Does the NIL deal, which fell through and apparently was a binding agreement, binding where? Does that trump your national letter of intent? Does Florida have to let him out or risk being sued? Yes. Do they have to pay him this money? No. Well, he didn't perform the services. So is he going to sue the Gator Collective if they don't let him out of his letter of intent? Is he going to sue the University of Florida? Is he going to sue the athletic department? Is he going to sue Billy Napier? What'd they tell him? How are they going to pay him the $13 million? Was he expecting a $13 million check? Hey, Jaden, here's your locker over here. Okay, so you got your shoes, you got your shoulder pads, you got your helmet, and tucked in that little envelope over there is $13 million. Cashier's check. Take it down to the bank. Or was it, if they're smart, you get paid after you play, okay? You want to pay them by the semester? You want to pay them by the month? You want to pay them by the game? You want to pay them by the practice? You got to start paying them by the practice. You got an NIL deal here, $13 million, no problem. We're going to pay you $11,000 a practice, $3,000 a workout, $150,000 a game, paid on receipt. You guys probably don't even know what COD is. It used to be cash on delivery. The delivery, okay. Every NIL deal is COD, cash on delivery. How do you enforce this? Who's right here? Who's wrong? I mean, did they promise him this and lie to him? Did they never intend to do this? Did he want payment some other way? Is there going to be a lawsuit coming if they don't let him out? What is this going to do to Florida's recruiting? Okay? Because you can bet every NIL collective that is offering a player money that's recruiting against Florida is going to go, they're reneged on their deal. They're not going to give you the money, and then they're going to play hell with you getting out of your national letter of intent. Really? Okay? This is a real problem, okay? Quarterback comes to your school, doesn't have playing time, goes somewhere else. This happens every day. $13 million NIL deal goes sideways, and the player wants out, and the school's like, I don't know, we're going to let you out. Oh. You go into Billy Napier's right now. Coach, here are your options, okay? You can release this player that you really need, by the way, and he can go off somewhere else, and you can go try to find a quarterback now. Good luck with that. Got to wait till after spring maybe. Or you can fight him on this. You can try to make him stay here. And, oh, by the way, who's on the hook for the $13 million? Who over at the Gator Collective okayed all this? This is what coaches have to do now. You got to coach the team. You got to hire staff. You got to implement culture. And you better be in sync with your collective, or your NIL deals are going to go sideways, and you're going to end up with something like this. Florida's problem, to be sure. All right, Scott Rabelais with us when we come back. And then we'll do first class, second class, no class a little bit later on. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
So if you're going and looking for a new car right about now, which we will be doing very soon over at my house, Acura Infinity of Baton Rouge with some year beginning deals here, 3.9% APR for 60 months on most of the models on the lot right now, $1,000 loyalty cash back on MDXs and your TLXs. 2 years, 24,000-mile complimentary scheduled maintenance on all 2023 models. If you're looking for a certified pre-owned vehicle, they've got a large selection at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge. It's going to include a 7-year powertrain warranty. It's going to include roadside assistance. It's going to include your first scheduled maintenance and a complimentary vehicle when you do take your vehicle in to be serviced. Transparency in pricing and a family atmosphere. So I will be shopping once again at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $7,500 off new 2022 Ram 1500s. New 2022 Ram 1500 trucks on our lot now with $7,500 off MSRP. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Miller Lite has more taste than...
Join me, Jimmy Ott, for Game Time, live from Snow's Seafood and Steak Airline Highway at Highway 74 in Gonzales. 6 to 8 p.m. Wednesday. Got a bunch of guests giving out picks. Game Time on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 104.5 ESPN.com. Joining us now, Scott Rabelais from The Advocate. Rabs, how you doing?
Charles, I'm doing pretty well. I just before I came on the air with you, I was filling out my credential request for the Masters. So that's always a nice midwinter thing to do.
You think you're going to be approved? You know, you skipped the November thing.
No, they skipped me.
They skipped you.
You know, it was going to fall, on a football week. Then when they reconfigured the schedule, LSU ended up not playing that week, so I could have gone. It was going to be the week they played Alabama.
That's right.
And,
it was going to go right from the Masters to the LSU Alabama game, and it got pushed.
I could have gone, and they only approved like 1/3 of the people as normal. So I got on the outs.
No soup. No soup for you.
No soup for me. 75 days till the start of Masters Week, Charlie.
Okay.
I'm counting.
All right. We've started to watch golf. We're watching golf in Hawaii. Jimmy's got me plugged in, so we're starting to watch. Hey, I wanted to ask you because you spent a decent amount of time on the LSU women's basketball beat. So your thoughts about the Simone statue and the dedication, the great crowd on Sunday, but we had Patrick Wright on yesterday. You were right there in the middle of all that when Simone was being recruited and what that meant to LSU. You had maybe a little bit different perspective of it, having covered the team as long as you did.
Well, I remember you were at her first game, or one of her very first games, and you were sitting behind me, like, Rab, who's the best player ever at LSU? I said, I named somebody. Joyce Walker.
Joyce Walker, yeah.
Well, she looks like the best.
Yeah,
and she is. Well, first of all, it's very well deserved. I mean, she's been a legend, almost since middle school in Baton Rouge. Then she played at Capitol High. I think she said at the ceremony they lost 7 games in 4 years, when she was at Capitol High School, and then she changed the program. The only other person who changed the trajectory of a program in the way that Simone Augustus did, or greater, it would be Skip Bertman. What he did to come in here and just build something that hadn't been there before. And she set LSU on the path of, 5 straight Final Fours, which at the time was tied for the record with UConn. And her freshman year, they went to the Elite Eight, so they're not too bad either. Won the SEC for the first time. But she just brought in an attention and an excitement about women's basketball. I heard your interview with Patrick Wright yesterday, and, of course, I remember that Tennessee game as well in 2003, and thinking, how happy I was for Sue Gunner that they had filled the place up. But she's so deserving. I mean, she's destined. She's destined for sure for the Naismith Hall of Fame, as is Sylvia Fowles, who may be the next person who needs a statue outside the PMAC. And if you're doing statues for all these other men, Pete Maravich, Shaquille O'Neal, Bob Pettit, Skip Bertman, Billy Cannon, we assume Joe Burrow one day. You need to have someone for the women. I know there's a lot of sports fans out there who say, well, women's sports is what men's sports is. Simone Augustus is going to be in the Naismith Hall of Fame. There's not a lower floor for the women compared to the men, okay? It's just everybody. And in the history of basketball internationally. And she's going to be up there. and you have to. I think Simone embodies not just what she did and the athlete she was, but I think as the first woman to get a statue at LSU, that she is kind of representing the Lolo Jones and the Mona Lees and the Sarah Finnegans and people like that. And if there was a Mount Rushmore of LSU athletics, Charlie, Simone Augustus would have to be on it as the face of women's athletic success at LSU, which has been a significant part of LSU's athletic success over the past 40 years. So in so many ways, it's very deserving.
Yeah, she's absolutely got to be first. I came out at the beginning as not anti-statue for her, just anti-statue period. But
I understand.
No, and listen, the reason for I've kind of changed my mind. I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it. But when they first started doing this, my thing was, this is 12 years of Catholic school talk, and when you see a statue, it's of somebody that's dead. And so, when they take you to the church, they take you to the cemetery, there's statues of dead people. And that's not how I equate how I, think about the athletes that have been honored here. But if they want to do statues, that's fine. It makes a nice, I hate to say monuments because that also insinuates dead people, but it makes a nice, monuments row there behind the basketball arena. So, good for her. And it was an unbelievable turnout. Scott, when we were covering recruit, this is going to be an old-timer segment here for a second. Whenever they talk about changing the rules for recruiting or transferring or any of these things, you would always hear from a coach or an administrator, you can't do that. That'd be anarchy. It'd be the Wild Wild West. Are we now at anarchy in the Wild Wild West, and is it way better or way worse than it used to be under the old rules?
Well, it giveth and it taketh away, Charlie. I mean, it's, you see a player like Walker Howard transfer out, and you think he was kind of on the plan that they wanted, that he's going to be redshirting this year and then have, 4 more years to play. And, he's going to be behind one of those guys at least. And of course, both Daniels and Nussmeier return. And now he's winding up at an SEC West rival. And in the past, he would have had to sit out 2 years. Am I not wrong? If he wanted to transfer it to someone in the conference?
Yes.
That would have been the rule years ago.
And nobody ever did that. To my knowledge, nobody ever did that.
No. But Brian Kelly, by the way, was at the gymnastics meet Monday, sitting on the front row behind me. His first gymnastics meet.
I did see that. Yeah, I did see that on television.
He was there with no entourage. He was there with his daughter Grace, and he said he was enjoying it. And it was a great meet against Oklahoma. And but the transfer portal helps you, as well. I mean, Kelly could not have built LSU back to where they were this year. Still with some holes, but not to the point they were without the transfer portal. Obviously they retooled the secondary completely. Jaden Daniels, of course, came in from Arizona State after being a starter there, a multi-year starter there. And then a similar thing for LSU women's basketball. I mean, Angel Reese was the number 2 prospect in the country a couple of years ago, coming out of high school, and a consensus 5-star, and she was the top transfer in the country. And you see the dividends she has paid for LSU. She's a National Player of the Year contender now. So, obviously coaches, and I think it's human nature. Coaches, people in the media, fans on the street, and anyone typically decries change when it happens, because as human beings we don't like change. But I don't think it's been the demise of college athletics that maybe I even feared, but it still needs a little more. It needs a little more regulation. It needs a little more, a few more boundaries. So does NIL especially. But I like the idea of hey, if you want to go more than one school, you're going to have to really show a compelling reason why. It's not just I feel like it. But it's helped as well as it's hurt, and I think it's crazier. Yeah, it is crazier and harder to wrap your head around a roster or a team's prospects or something like that. But it does. There is kind of an equilibrium there to me that I think we've seen with how much it's helped and hurt. Some programs, especially ones at LSU.
I was always of the opinion that fans mostly rooted for the uniforms. Okay, they rooted for whoever was in their uniform, and I can't think of any better example than Reggie Bush. for Louisiana football fans. When Reggie Bush was at USC and there was this great debate over who was better, LSU or USC, LSU fans hated Reggie Bush. They hated Pete Carroll. They hated Matt Leinart. They hated the whole Lindale White, the whole bunch of them, okay? But as soon as Reggie Bush came to the Saints, people liked him a whole lot, okay? Same guy, but now he's on the Saints Super Bowl team, and, well, go Reggie. So I always thought it was, hey, listen, and I still think that to a certain extent. And you can look at it in recruiting every year. You get to signing day. We're going to get him. 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 He goes to the other school. You bum. Okay, so that, to me, I still think they root for the uniforms a little bit. But is this because the fans are not maybe able to draw long bonds with guys that they root for? You know, the guy that plays for their team the whole career, you know, the guy that plays for their college the whole career. There's always that specter of you're going to lose them. Is that why we don't like this, or why fans don't like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with in college athletics, to me, the difference in the pro mentality and the college mentality is a little more. The college team, this is where I'm from. I mean, the schools can't move. You know, the pro team can pick up and leave, and they have, you know, many times in all the leagues over the years. But the college can't go anywhere, and so it's very much more ingrained where you're from and where your family is, and your family went to school. I went to that school, and my dad went to that school, and my mom went to that kind of thing. So I think when a player leaves through the transfer portal, seemingly a lot of times on a whim, it's a rejection of something that's even more personal than it is the Saints or the Pelicans or the Cowboys or the Yankees or something like that. So I think it's I think that's why the reactions can be a little stronger. By the way, Charlie, so are you saying if Tom Brady signs a free agent deal with the Saints, people are going to be overjoyed about it?
Tom Terrific. I'm serious. Tom Terrific. Yes. It's very easy to listen. I've seen people root against some of the. Well, I'm going to give you an example, okay? And this goes way back, and I'm not calling anybody out. I was just there, and it happened. The 1990. Oh gosh, I think this was 1997 or 98. One of the years that they were playing. No, it was 2000. Okay, 2000 LSU baseball team wins the national championship, and the next year they're playing an alumni game. They used to do this, the current team against the alumni. Mm-hmm. They don't do it anymore. And it might have been Brad Cressy. It might have been Blair Barbier. I don't remember who it was, but the alumni were coming back, and there was a crowd at Alex Box Stadium, and they were rooting for the current team, of course, and I'm like, well, they're going to certainly root for the alumni, you know, and it might have been Barbier that came up or Cressy. I'm like, the crowd's going to go nuts, and it's like, yeah, clap, 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 clap. You know, it was a golf clap. It was like, you guys don't play for us anymore. And I don't know, it just struck me as those guys won a national championship for LSU like 9 months ago, and now they're getting the golf clap. I mean, I thought that they would go crazy. So, yeah, I do think in a lot of cases that you root for and not everybody, but you know, a lot of people. It's just, hey, you're with us. I'm fine. Jaden Daniels, okay. Nobody rooted for Jaden Daniels because he was Jaden Daniels. They were rooted for him because he was the LSU quarterback. When he was the Arizona State quarterback, who cared? They root for the uniforms. Walker Howard may be a little bit different because they've known him for a little bit longer, but if he's at LSU, they root for him. If he was at TCU, they wouldn't have cared. If he's at Ole Miss, they're going to root against him. It all depends on how the guy dresses on Saturdays.
I hope he's ready to get booted. I mean, potentially he could be the starting quarterback when they play here in 24, right? I mean,
the odds are that in 24 it'll be Nussmeier for LSU and Howard for Ole Miss. Now, only a million things can happen between now and in the fall of 24. But yeah, that's the as Jimmy Ott would say, that's the chalk right now. If you're asking me who's going to be the starting quarterbacks in that game, that's the chalk. Scott, go fill out your application. I wouldn't want you to miss the Masters.
Thank you, friends.
Appreciate it. Scott Rabelais from The Advocate. We'll take a break. First class, second class, no class is next. It's Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Big Mike Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs with live music every weekend. Coming up tomorrow night, Chris Allen and Caitlin Renee on Friday. Always daily lunch specials at Big Mike's. Tomorrow it is the hot ham and cheese po' boy. On Friday, the lunch special is the Boudin burger. And on Sunday, listen, for the NFL, you go out and watch the games. It's happy hour prices all day. $2 domestic draft in bottles, $3 wells, $3.50 glasses of wine. That's from 3 to 7 on weekdays and all day on Sundays starting at 11 a.m. Monday night, all-you-can-eat ball shrimp for $15.99, and every Monday night that starts at 5 o'clock all the way until close. Big Mike's available for your private parties, and they do off-site catering as well. On Aspen in Denham Springs, Big Mike's, kind of a big deal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Before we begin any electrical work here, we perform a home safety check that begins at your electrical panel to make sure that you and your family are safe. For all your upgrades, installations, and repairs, call Mr. Electric.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
All right, let's say ah.
On Thursday's OTB, who will make it to the NFL Final Four? Plus, how did the Pelicans fare in their return trip home against Miami Heat? And a brand new Munchies off the bench. 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Annegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hanny Time. First class.
I want a seat in first class where I was booked and ticketed over a month ago.
Second class.
That no man should be subjected to the indignity of being labeled or treated like a second-class citizen.
And no class.
My life had become like school on Sunday. No class.
I'll tell you what then. Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
First class, second class, no class, brought to you by Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com for your next family gathering or your next party. Make it Supreme Rice down in Crowley, Louisiana since the 1930s. Your jambalayas, your gumbos, your red beans, your etouffees, make it Supreme Rice. The long grain, the medium grain, the brown, or the jasmine. Perfect complement to any meal. You know, I had a couple of submissions for first class, and I got a real good one out of the chat that I'm gonna reference here. My first one was Simone Augustus. It was a very eloquent speech on Sunday. Sunday was a big deal. You know, to have that many people come out and to have that many of her former teammates there, to, you know, the significance of the dedication. Simone Augustus is first class. So, but we've talked about that a good bit. I also wanted to put, you know, not that I'm promoting Kentucky basketball or anything, but I know unbelievable performances when I see it. Oscar Tshiebwe last night for Kentucky, my goodness, 37 points and 24 rebounds. I mean, that's Chamberlain-esque, and not for nothing, but Kentucky was down 8 at the half and ended up winning the game by 14. So they turned it around on Georgia pretty good. That was a real strong performance by Oscar Tshiebwe. But Stephen, I think it was Stephen Miller and a number of others in the chat brought up this week's SEC shorts. And Mario, I think you commented on it too. First of all, if you've never seen SEC shorts, this should be a part of your weekly viewing. It's usually most of them are somewhere between, I don't know, 3-4 minutes long, so it doesn't take a long time. If you're an SEC football fan, you're almost always guaranteed to laugh. They come up with the most timely topics. They're creative. They're funny. Even when they're poking fun at you, they are just exceptionally well done. I don't know who's writing them, and I'm not familiar with the actors, same group of people that do them every week. But they're fantastic. They're really, really well done. So they've done, at the end of the years, they give everybody a report card, okay? And it's just a funny way of saying what you did, during the season. And I'll let you go. They're easy enough to Google. But this one this morning that they put out was particularly good because they went through the entire I won't ruin it for you if you haven't seen it, but just it was very, very good what they did for Mike Leach. It was a lot of people say it got to me a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it was it kind of tugged at the heart. So if you're familiar with it and you haven't seen this week's episode, cut it out. It's a little bit longer actually because it's the end of the year thing, so it's about 5 minutes long. But it's worth the time. It's going to make you laugh, and then it's got a really nice deal for Mike Leach. Also, college basketball last night. If you had a chance to watch, we talked about this on the show. You had 7 ranked teams going on the road as favorites, and look, Houston. But you had 3 upsets last night, or 3 of the home teams won. 2 of them were ranked, but the teams that were coming in were ranked higher. Tulane hung around for a while with Houston. They got it to within 5 last night at 54-49, but that was as close as they could get. Houston shot 50% from three-point range, and with the way they play defense, Houston got home by 20 against Tulane, but it was competitive for a while. Full house for Tulane, which doesn't happen all that often for Tulane basketball. Real resurgence in the program there. K-State beat Kansas. Iowa State beat Texas, and Wake Forest beat Clemson. Baylor was a winner as a favorite. So was Tennessee, and so was Alabama, who's dealing with a lot of stuff outside the program, obviously. So good college basketball last night. Second class, good with a chance to be great. This is going to be a statement on a lot of quarterbacks that have been answering a lot of questions here in this divisional round, some of them for longer than others. For instance, for Trevor Lawrence, people are going to ask, is this your breakthrough? Because at halftime of last week's game, there was not a whole lot of positive energy towards Trevor Lawrence. But what he showed in the second half, one of the great playoff comebacks of all time. Can you carry that into Kansas City and take it to the MVP, the likely MVP, and Patrick Mahomes? That'll be his question this week. Daniel Jones, they didn't even offer him a contract extension. It was kind of a wait and see. Let's see what you do. Bet on yourself. Well, he had a pretty strong game last week against Minnesota. Can he carry that into Philadelphia, where Jalen Hurts, who was, in my opinion, was the MVP through week 13, and then he missed some time at the end, and Mahomes caught him. But for Jalen Hurts, a chance to win his first playoff game. They're about to sink a ton of money into Jalen Hurts. Can he get his first playoff win? For Dak Prescott, okay, how long did they go back and forth over whether Dak Prescott's going to get paid or not? Taylor, this is where you chime in. Noted Cowboys fan, this is where you say a very long time, Charles, a very long time.
A very long time, Charles.
Thank you, Taylor. We're going to work on our timing. Mario's been out. He was great on Monday night. The Cowboys in general were great, and sent Tom Terrific home and maybe into retirement. But Dak Prescott, because he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and that goes, I'm sorry, whether you like the Cowboys or hate them, I'm sorry, that's a lightning rod position in professional sports. You're the ace for the New York Yankees. You used to be the center, but now you're the lead scorer for the Los Angeles Lakers. You're the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. More light on you. Well, Dak Prescott answered the bell on Monday night. Does he answer it again in San Francisco, where a rookie quarterback who is yet to lose is starting on the other side? Brock Purdy may have slid into a really good spot there, okay? Best defense in football, two of the most dynamic playmakers in Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, one of the top, not the top tight end in football, but I would say one of the top 5 tight ends in football in George Kittle, and, pretty good coaching staff. They're going to make him he's going to make them ask the question in the offseason, do we really want to move on from this guy, or is he the future? I mean, Garoppolo is going to be a free agent. He saw to that with that contract that, he kind of bailed him out a little bit after Trey Lance got hurt. But, man, look, if I watch Brock Purdy take my team on an undefeated streak at the end of the season when the games matter the most, am I going to take Brock Purdy into the playoffs and have him win multiple playoff games? Am I going to watch Brock Purdy take my team to the Super Bowl and maybe win the Super Bowl? And then I'm going to say, nah, I'm going to the guy who started 2 games. I don't think so. So all of these guys, good with a chance to be great. In some cases they've been great already. Can they take that next step and answer that question this weekend? And no class is kind of a blanket no class. If you watch the divisional round of the playoffs, there might have been a lot of great plays. Might have been some, really good quarterbacking, some compelling games, some close games, a lot of scoring. All the games went over except for the last one. But you saw some really bad coaching. I mean, so for playoff teams, some really bad coaching. Miami can't get a play in. The Chargers can't hold a 27-point lead. The Vikings are throwing a 3-yard pass on 4th and season. The Ravens quarterback doesn't know to go and burrow under the pile instead of jump over the top and extend the ball when – come on, man. You don't think they're going to be swiping at the ball? You're not as close as you think you are. And in Tampa, just the whole thing real bad. I don't know that I've ever seen worse coaching in a playoff weekend than I saw this past weekend. I mean, it was across the board bad coaching. But rest assured, the Chargers got everything fixed. They moved the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach. So everything will be fine. First class, second class, no class, brought to you by Supreme Rice. We'll take a break, come back, take some of your questions. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. Support our Louisiana farmers down in southwest Louisiana. They've been doing this since the 1930s. All your Supreme Rice, grown, milled, and processed in southwest Louisiana. Whether it's the brown, the long grain, the medium grain, or the jasmine, Supreme Rice, a perfect complement to any stew, any red beans, any gumbo, any jambalaya. You're going to make it with Supreme Rice. You're going to save a little bit of money. Your food dollar is going to go a little bit further, and it's easy to get. All your AG food stores, all of your Rouses, all of your Walmarts, including your Walmart neighborhood stores, and that includes our New Orleans market as well. Delicious Supreme Rice. You can get a little bit creative with it. For more information and some unique recipes, look it up at SupremeRice.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana.
Join me on the Hunt Palmer Show Wednesday. We'll get you ready for LSU and Auburn from the PMAC and start looking towards NFL divisional football. Hunt Palmer Show 1 to 3 weekdays, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
SEC basketball tonight. Tigers trying to get off the schneid. 4.5 point underdog to Auburn. This is one of those spots where, look, LSU's not better than Auburn. I'm not gonna tell you that, but there are spots in the schedule where you can catch somebody. This might be one for LSU. For instance, South Carolina. And it, for whatever reason, caught Kentucky last week. Don't know why. Don't know why it was that day. But they got Kentucky, and they beat them. And then 4 days later, or 3 days later, they went to Texas A&M and got beat by 41. LSU didn't even get beat the worst on Saturday when they lost by 40. South Carolina, after going to Rupp and beating Kentucky for the second time, I think, since they've been in the league, maybe, goes to Texas A&M and gets the doors blown off. And then Kentucky, after winning or after losing to South Carolina, who they had no business losing to, goes to Tennessee and beats the Vols, who they had no business beating. So there's spots in the schedule all the time. If LSU and Auburn played 10 times on a neutral floor somewhere, Auburn would probably win 8. They might even win 9 at this point. But they've won 3 in a row, and this is the first of a 2-game road trip. And they had a really nice road win at Mississippi State. Any road win's a nice win. They had, I'm sorry, at Ole Miss, not Mississippi State. And they've beaten Georgia, they've beaten Florida, but this might be a spot in the schedule. That's essentially what you're hoping for is a spot. LSU's do a better performance. They're not probably as good as they were against Kansas State or Arkansas. They're not as bad as they were against Alabama or Texas A&M or Tale of two halves with Florida. They had the lead in the first half, not in the second half. Can LSU put 40 minutes together tonight, or just enough to win the game? Auburn is favored. They should be favored. The home court in college basketball means a lot, so can LSU catch them? Maybe. I don't know. Florida and Texas A&M are playing again. The good news about this game is it's at Texas A&M, because when the game was at Florida, Texas A&M forgot to bring their uniforms. Thinking that since they're in the home arena, the home locker room, that won't be a problem tonight. Just guessing. And then Arkansas is at Missouri. Arkansas 1-4 out of the gate in the SEC. They've had some injuries, but it just goes to show you how quickly things can change. We were looking at the preseason SEC before the season even started, not before the SEC season started, before the whole season started. Wow, Arkansas's got 3 first-round picks on that team. At least 1, maybe 2 lottery picks. They're 1-4. Their record's the same as LSU. Things change around here, folks. Better keep up. What Ferris Bueller say, life moves pretty fast. Pay attention. You might miss it. For Mario Jerez, for Taylor Sharp, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
You're a business owner and your biggest problem is staffing. You're not alone. Many, many business owners are going through the same thing that you are. A lot of time wasted on no-show interviews, unqualified applicants. Let Tiger Labor and Staffing do all the legwork for you, the interviews, the background checks, the training. Take care of a lot of your payroll expenses and give you enough time to where you don't have to worry about the no-call, no-show interviews. Listen, the labor expenses and the increased flexibility that you get by working with Tiger Labor and Staffing just invaluable, particularly during your peak seasons when you need some seasonal employees. You temp to hire options only 60 days. That's the lowest in the industry. And if you're looking for a job, Tiger Labor and Staffing welcomes skilled and unskilled labor. They'll match you with a job that fits, get you a quick turnaround on pay. So get your work done without the worries. Let Tiger Labor and Staffing take care of all of the legwork for you. Success begins with the eye of the tiger. Online at tigerlabor.com.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in this